Welcome to the All Sorts podcast. We're all about diving deep, going beyond those headlines, those sound bites, and really getting to the heart of things. And you're here because you're curious. You want to understand more. And that's exactly what we're going to do today.
You got it. Today, we're taking a look at a book that's had, well, a pretty huge impact. It's Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, the original 1937 edition, that is.
Now, this book, it's kind of legendary, right? It's like the go-to for anyone who wants to, well, think and grow rich. But what's really fascinating to me is that Hill didn't just, dream this stuff up. He spent years studying super successful people, like big names in all sorts of industries.
Yeah, he was really trying to figure out, what made them tick, what set them apart, and he distilled all that down into, well, what he called a philosophy of success.
A philosophy of success. I love that. So basically, it's like a blueprint for reaching your full potential.
Right, and for a lot of people, that potential is tied to wealth and financial abundance. But it's bigger than that, too. It's about tapping into those inner resources, the knowledge that's already inside you.
The stuff we don't even realize we have. I like that. So right off the bat, the book grabs you with these incredible endorsements. We've got a Supreme Court justice, no less, praising Hill's law of success principles, saying they're essential for effective leadership.
Talk about credibility. And it doesn't stop there. You've got F.W. Woolworth, the guy behind the whole Woolworths empire, saying his entire business, it was built on those principles. A monument to them.
A monument. That's quite an image. And then there's this steamship magnate. He's already super successful, right? But he's reading this and he's thinking, man, I wish I had this knowledge 50 years ago.
50 years. Imagine the things he could have achieved. And it really gets you thinking about the potential we all have, the paths we could be on if we had the right knowledge and the right mindset.
Exactly. Now, the really juicy part is how this all came about. It's like something out of a movie. Apparently, Andrew Carnegie, the steel tycoon, one of the wealthiest men of his time, he confides in Hill. Tells him this secret formula for wealth.
A secret formula. Now, you got to remember, Carnegie was a giant, a legend. So when he talks, people listen.
Right. So Carnegie, he challenges Hill, tells him, take this secret and share it with the world. Spend 20 years, even more if you need to make sure everyone has access to it.
20 years. That's dedication.
And Carnegie was so convinced that this formula was like the key to success that he actually thought it should be taught in schools. He even said it could cut education time in half.
Wow. Now, that's a bold statement. It really shows how much he believed in this hidden power within all of us.
Yeah, he really did. And Hill claims that thousands of people from all walks of life, they tested out this secret formula. So it's not just theory. It's supposed to be like a proven system.
All right, so we've got the background, we've got the endorsements. Now let's get into the meat of it, the principles themselves. And it all starts with desire.
Desire. That makes sense. I mean, if you don't really want something, you're probably not going to go after it, right?
Exactly. But it's not just any kind of desire. Hill talks about definite desire. It's got to be focused, crystal clear. You got to know exactly what you want.
Like write it down, visualize it, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And Hill gives this great example of Edwin C. Barnes. This guy, he had this burning desire to become a business associate of Thomas Edison. Not just an employee, mind you, an associate.
He aimed high. So how did Barnes even get close to Edison? I mean, Edison was like a celebrity.
Well, Barnes, he had no connections, no money to travel to see Edison. But he had this unwavering commitment. He came up with a plan, and he just stuck with it no matter what.
And it worked. He actually became an associate of Edison's.
That's incredible. What can we learn from Barnes? It's easy to say, never give up, but... Well, think about it. Barnes, he burned all bridges behind him. There was no going back, no plan B. And that intense focus, it forced him to put all his energy, all his effort into reaching his goal.
Burning all bridges. Wow, that's intense. So it's like you're so committed, you're not even giving yourself the option of failure.
Right. And Hill, he gives another example of this kind of unwavering belief. He talks about those Chicago merchants after that devastating fire. A lot of them, they packed up, moved on. But Marshall Field, he stayed put.
Marshall Field, the department store guy, wasn't his store destroyed in the fire?
It was. But he vowed to rebuild on that same spot. And not just rebuild, but create the world's greatest store. He had that burning desire to overcome the challenge. And that's what he did.
So it's not just about wanting something really badly. It's about that unwavering belief that you can achieve it.
Exactly. It's like you refuse to let anything stand in your way.
All right, moving on, we've got persistence.
Persistence. I mean, everyone knows that's important, right? But what does Hill have to say about it? Well, he tells this great story about R.U. Darby. This guy, he and his uncle, they were convinced their mine was full of gold. They dug and dug and dug, but then the veins seemed to disappear.
Oh, no. So what did they do? Did they just keep digging?
They gave up. They sold all their equipment to a junk man. And guess what? That junk man, he consulted a mining engineer, dug just a little bit further, and bam, hit a massive vein of gold.
3 feet from where Darby stopped. That's heartbreaking.
So the lesson here is don't give up too soon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially when you feel like you're so close. And Darby, he actually took this lesson to heart. He went on to become very successful in the life insurance business. He never quit on a sale just because someone initially said no.
I guess persistence really does pay off. But it can be tough, especially when you face setbacks.
Yeah, setbacks are a part of life. But Hill, he sees them as blessings in disguise. They teach us valuable lessons. They show us where we need to adapt to change our approach.
So it's not about avoiding failure. It's about learning from it and using it to fuel our persistence. Right. It's about that keep on keeping on spirit. Now, the next principle might seem a little, well, out there for some people. It's faith.
Faith, like religious faith. I wasn't expecting that in a book about, getting rich.
It's not necessarily about religion, though it could be for some. It's more about having this deep-seated belief in your ability to achieve your goals, that unshakable confidence in yourself and your vision.
Like, even if you don't have all the answers right now, you just know it's going to work out.
Yeah, exactly. And Hill, he ties this to another concept, autosuggestion. The idea that if you keep repeating something to yourself, even if it's not true at first, you'll eventually start to believe it.
So you're basically reprogramming your mind.
Exactly. He even gives a self-confidence formula. It's this list of affirmations you repeat to yourself every day, like, I will succeed, I am capable, that kind of thing.
Interesting. So you're basically issuing a command to yourself, demanding success from your own subconscious mind.
And, the subconscious mind, it doesn't really distinguish between positive and negative thoughts. It just acts on whatever you feed it, which is why it's so important to be mindful of your self-talk.
So all those negative thoughts, those doubts and fears, they can really hold us back.
Absolutely. Hill even uses the term mental suicide to describe what happens when we allow those negative thoughts to dominate our minds. He tells this story about Joseph Grant, a guy who basically convinced himself he was going to die from disgrace. And tragically, that's exactly what happened.
Oh, that's heavy. It really underscores how powerful our minds are.
Right. All right, now let's talk about knowledge. Hill, he's got a pretty interesting take on this. He says that knowledge by itself, it's not power. It's potential power.
Okay, that's interesting. So it's not enough to just, read books and gather information.
Nope. It's what you do with that knowledge that matters. You got to organize it, create a plan, and then take action.
So it's like knowledge plus action equals power.
Exactly. And Hill, he points out this missing link in education. We're often taught what to think, but not how to think. We're not taught how to actually use the knowledge we acquire.
Right. It's like we learn all this stuff, but then we don't know what to do with it.
He uses the example of Henry Ford. Now, Ford, he didn't have a formal education, but he was incredibly knowledgeable about cars. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he wasn't afraid to, challenge the status quo. He even went up against these educated pacifists in a lawsuit. And guess what? He won.
So it's about having specialized knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Knowledge that's relevant to your specific goals.
Yes, and he encourages people to actively seek out that knowledge through night school, correspondence courses, whatever it takes.
Okay, so we've got the knowledge. Now we need a plan.
Absolutely, and it needs to be a written plan.
Yeah.
Hill, he talks about this woman who created this incredibly detailed plan book for her son. It outlined his skills, his education, everything.
Wow, talk about a supportive mom. So it's not just a resume, it's like a blueprint for his career.
Exactly. And Hill emphasizes that the workshop for creating this plan, it's your imagination. You got to be able to see your path to success, to envision it in detail.
I like that. Okay, what's next?
The mastermind principle. This one's really interesting. It's about the power of collaboration.
Collaboration. So you're saying you can't achieve great things alone.
Well, it's definitely a lot harder. No one person has all the resources, all the knowledge, all the skills to, achieve their full potential on their own. The mastermind principle, it brings people together, creates this synergy.
A mastermind group. That makes sense. So you surround yourself with people who share your vision, who have different strengths and weaknesses, and you feed off each other's energy.
Exactly. And Hill, he believes that plans for wealth accumulation, they should be created by the mastermind group, not just by one individual.
Interesting. He even gives a historical example, right?
Yeah. John Adams, John Hancock, and Richard Henry Lee. They were like, a proto-mastermind. Their collaboration helped lay the foundation for American freedom.
So, even back then, people understood the power of teamwork. Hill also talks about a psychic aspect of the mastermind. What's that all about?
Well, he's suggesting that when minds work together in harmony, they can tap into this deeper level of intuition, like they're on the same wavelength.
I guess that happens sometimes, right? You just click with someone and the ideas start flowing.
Exactly. And he uses this analogy of electric batteries.
Yeah.
A group of batteries, they generate way more power than a single battery, right?
Right. Okay, now we're getting into some really interesting territory. The sixth sense.
Ah, yes. The sixth sense. Hill, he equates this to creative imagination, and he argues that most people, they don't even come close to using their full creative potential.
It's like we've all got this incredible power inside us, but we don't know how to access it.
Right. But Hill, he points out that people who achieve extraordinary things, what he calls genie, they tap into this creative power. He uses the example of Thomas Edison. Edison, he tried thousands of combinations before he finally invented the light bulb. And it was through this process, this relentless experimentation, that he was able to, tune in to his creative imagination.
Wow, that's persistence, and it paid off big time.
Absolutely. And then there's Dr. Elmer R. Gates. This guy, he would literally sit for ideas, and he would get paid huge sums of money by major corporations for his insights.
So just by, sitting and thinking, that's amazing.
Right. And it shows that this creative power, it's real, it's valuable, and it's something we can all cultivate. Now, Hill, he distinguishes between two types of imagination. There's synthetic imagination, which is basically rearranging existing ideas, and then there's creative imagination, which is coming up with completely new concepts.
So synthetic imagination is more like problem solving, and creative imagination is like pure inspiration.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And he suggests that inventors, they often start with synthetic imagination, and then when they hit a roadblock, they tap into their creative imagination to break through.
Okay, so we've got desire, persistence, faith, knowledge, the mastermind, the sixth sense.
Yeah.
What else?
The power of sex transmutation.
Whoa, hold on. Sex transmutation. I'm not sure I'm following here.
Now, this is a concept that can be easily misunderstood. But basically, Hill is saying that sexual energy, it's this incredibly powerful force, and when you consciously redirect that energy, you can achieve amazing things.
You're not talking about suppressing sexual desire. You're talking about channeling it into other areas of your life.
Exactly. He calls it the creative energy of all genii. And he points out that a lot of highly successful people, they have very strong libidos, but they've learned to transmute that energy into other pursuits.
Interesting. So it's like that drive, that passion, it can fuel your creativity, your ambition.
Right. He even mentions that a lot of successful men have been motivated by, the influence of a woman in their lives. And he talks about using memories of love to enhance creative effort.
Okay, this is all starting to make sense. Now we're getting the end of the book, right? What's the last principle?
Overcoming fear. Hill, he dedicates a whole section to this. He calls it outwitting the 6 ghosts of fear.
6 ghosts of fear.
Yeah.
That's kind of spooky. What are they?
Poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death.
Those are some pretty universal fears.
Right. And Hill, he argues that these fears, they stem from indecision. When we're not sure what we want, when we doubt ourselves, that's when fear creeps in.
So the antidote to fear is clarity of purpose.
Exactly. And he gives specific examples of how to overcome each of these fears. For example, with the fear of poverty, he suggests recognizing that it often comes from this tendency to want to take from others rather than create value.
So it's about shifting your mindset from scarcity to abundance.
Right. And for the fear of criticism, he says just accept that not everyone's going to like you or agree with you. And that's okay.
Yeah, that's a tough one. But it's true. You can't please everyone.
And when it comes to ill health, he advises focusing on the things you can control, like your diet, your exercise, your stress levels, and not dwelling on the things you can't.
Makes sense. So it's about taking action instead of worrying.
Exactly. And for the fear of loss of love, he encourages developing self-love and recognizing that true love can't be lost.
Oh, that's beautiful. And what about old age and death?
Well, for old age, he suggests embracing the wisdom and experience that comes with it. And for death, he says to accept it as a natural part of life.
deep stuff. So basically, Hill is saying that we have the power to choose how we respond to our fears.
Yes, and that by making conscious decisions, we can overcome them. He even says that when we allow fear to dominate our minds, we not only harm ourselves, but we also transmit negative energy to others.
So fear is contagious. That's scary.
It can be, which is why it's so important to cultivate a fearless and positive mindset.
So that was Think and Grow Rich in a nutshell. What an incredible journey.
Right. So many powerful insights. And, it really makes you think about the unseen forces that shape our lives, those intangible things that we often overlook.
Like the power of our thoughts, our beliefs.
Exactly. What amazing things might we achieve if we truly harness that power? What secrets are waiting to be unlocked within our own minds?
Such a great question. Now, before we go, we want to remind you to like, share, and subscribe to the All Sorts podcast on YouTube.
We put a lot of heart into these deep dives, and your support really helps us grow and reach more curious minds like yours. Spread the knowledge, spread the inspiration.
And if you're enjoying this deep dive, be sure to check out our archives. We got tons of other episodes exploring all sorts of fascinating topics.
You can find them all on YouTube, and hey, while you're at it, give us a follow on X, Instagram, and Threads. We'd love to connect with you there too.
That's right. We're always looking to grow our community of curious minds. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Think and Grow Rich. Keep seeking, keep learning, and keep growing. Until next time.